Welcome to the Learning Personalities Workshop. This is an exciting workshop, and I'm excited for you. You know, when I used to teach this workshop in person, and sometimes I still do, it was so wonderful to see those light bulb moments on all the homeschool moms' faces in the audience. It is that good of a workshop. Now, let me explain what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. One thing, this topic can really seem complicated, and it is in the educational world. So what I've done is weeded out the parts that we really don't need right now and put it in a nutshell for you to understand and to make it usable in your homeschool journey right now. So whether you're a new homeschooler in the middle of it, maybe seasoned, maybe still struggling in this area about why you keep butting heads with your child, and you can't understand why he cannot understand how you're explaining something to him or teaching him when it's obviously very clear to you. So this makes this workshop very usable. Let me just break down how we're going to go through the flow of this workshop too. I'm going to explain what it is, what it's not, then identify the learning personalities for you, and then I'm going to give you some teaching tips, which is really practical help. Now, what I'm not going to do is say, here's a test at the end of this workshop, see what you are. Because through the years, you think that would be helpful, but through the years, I have found that having a lot of background information on the personality, on the different personalities as they're learning and as you're teaching them, is of way more help. This is why. I'm going to list some links. Yes, there's some tests that are better, but the better tests obviously cost. And that's good. That's a good thing if you're struggling. And especially if you have a kid that's in middle school or high school, you do want to identify his strengths and his weaknesses, because passions turn to profit. That turns to career. And we want to know what they are. So there's a lot that are free online. Like I said, I'll have a whole list of them and link them here. But what's of more value to you is understanding how to use them in your day-to-day homeschooling. Okay, so let's jump into this first topic. What I want to talk about, and I have my outline right over here, because if you know me already, I love to talk and I like to try to stay on topic. Sometimes I go off on tangents and give you a lot of background information, but I really want you to walk away with points you can use today in your homeschool. So I keep myself to this outline, but there's no promises. I may go off a little rabbit trail here and there. Okay, so here's the points that I'm going to talk about. Why do we need this? Why are learning personalities so important? And what's the difference? Is a learning personality the same as a learning style, a learning mode? All these terms were just kind of mixed in and folded in for me when I started. And I struggled for a great bit. And like I said, I don't want you waiting 20 years to have to figure it all out. So here's the first point. The reason why it's important and you want to know and dig deep on this topic is because you've chosen to homeschool. So that means you don't want robot education. Now, public school touts that it caters to different learning personalities or styles, but in truth, it really doesn't. It prefers one type of learning style. So we know one size does not fit all. We don't want robot education. We want to understand and tap into our child's strengths and understand their weaknesses, right? His or her weaknesses. Here's the second reason why it's so important to understand learning personalities, and that is because we appreciate differences. We appreciate them. Now, you have to understand this point too before I go further, and I'm going to say it a lot. I'll find some homeschool educators that are determined and strong-willed about teaching their way, their style. They say they appreciate differences, but they want their child to adjust, not them as a homeschool educator. or not their self, right? It's like, something's wrong with my child. Ouch. Yeah, it is kind of ouch. It's kind of hard for me to talk to a homeschool educator when they approach me and say, something's wrong with him. I always start first with the homeschool educator. Are you willing to go outside of your comfortable teaching zone? I did. I had to do it. I wasn't making headway when I had the second learner that didn't learn the way I did. Oh, the first one was easy. He had my same learning style. I thought, this is a breeze. I've got this. But here came the second kid learning completely different than me. And the third one also different than my learning and teaching style. So do you really appreciate differences? Do you celebrate differences? Are you willing to do the work to change and you be uncomfortable teaching something that you're just in a way that you're not really comfortable with? We don't have to give it all up, but I'm just exploring and explaining to you the problems that I see when home educator or parent and child, teacher, child, they're kind of button heads. Okay? So then that brings me to the fourth point, and that is when we understand the differences between learning personalities, learning styles, learning modalities, we become better educators. We see that our children are not intentionally aggravating us. A lot of things and problems in the homeschool day get cast off to, oh, my kid has an attitude, he's copying an attitude. And he very well may be, and you know that. But what I found out, a lot of it is aptitude. We're simply not teaching to their strengths and their weaknesses. Now, it doesn't mean we're coddling when we do that. It doesn't mean that. But I always think of the example, if a child is having a meltdown, or if a mom is going through hormonal changes, we don't say, oh, well, I'm coddling you because I changed things today to suit you. We would never think that. Learning personalities and teaching in the way that our child understands is the same way. So that's why we become better educators. We realize our children are not trying to aggravate us on purpose, but because they are children, they don't really know how to articulate in a way that says, you know what, this isn't working for me. I don't really understand what you're saying. No matter how much you poured your heart into it, they're not going to understand. Let me give you an example here. You know, I told you we lived in South America for a while, and my kids have taken Spanish to speak the language, Spanish, off and on through the years, but my husband had no desire to. And anyway, it's quite funny, but when we got to South America, when he couldn't speak the language, then he started speaking louder. And I just cracked up, because do you think if a child doesn't understand you that speaking louder is going to help when you don't speak that language? Oh, sure, we can use some hand signals, but they're speaking a different language. Do you think flashing more flashcards? Oh, let's do some more flashcards. If he doesn't understand this, let's do some flashcards. Is that going to help? No. And I would crack up at my husband who starts speaking louder, and I'd have to tell him they're not deaf. They just don't speak your language. And that's the point I'm making. We have to speak our kids' language. We have to understand. We have to change and adapt when one or more of them does not have our teaching style. We have to be willing to rise above and be a superior teacher. So that's what we're going to talk about. So let's dive in.